let me see. My name is Sandra Gonzalez, and I'm a school. I'm waiting for more minutes to come in. Hi. Thank you so much for inviting me here. I really appreciate it.
Well, it's our pleasure and our honor to have you here. So
Thank you.
have you here. Looks like everything's
All set up and ready to
all
go?
set up and ready to go.
Yeah, I'm waiting for at least 4 minutes or so
Yeah.
for more people to come in.
People filter in. So
Yes.
good deal. Well, I'll be wandering around a little bit. If
Mhm.
you should need something, just holler at me, okay? Or anybody in the room.
No problem. Thank you. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I'm gonna start. So yeah. Basically, my presentation is going to be around 30. My goal is to make it 35 minutes or so, so it won't be the whole hour. I know I know all of us are tired after a long day, me included. So I want to have the presentation, and I would like to have like a Q&A section at the end. So any questions that you have, I don't know if you like to write it down or somewhere that you can remember. So that way we can have an open forum after my presentation. Okay? We're gonna start around a minute, one more minute, and we're gonna start. minute, and we're going to be starting at 5:35. Okay. Hi. We want a couple more people to come in. Hi, good evening to all. Thank you. Okay. We'll start in a couple seconds. Okay. Let me put this down. Perfect. All right, we're ready? Okay, good evening to all, good afternoon to all. Thank you so much for being with me here today. I greatly appreciate from my heart for all of you to be here. I know it's been a very long day, but at the same time, fun day of information here and there, going to different presentations, not to mention going to the exhibit hall and meeting the different organizations and resources. Including I met some of you already, at the exhibitor booth. So I'm honored and privileged to be with all of you today. And today I'm going to do my presentation called From Nonverbal to TV, an Autism Unscripted Life. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about my life in the autism spectrum from childhood to adulthood, some of the challenges that I went through all the way to becoming an adult. And at the end, we're going to talk about the things that, in my opinion and my experience as an advocate, we must do as a autism community in order to help each individual in the autism spectrum to achieve a better quality of life. So let us begin. A little bit of myself. My name is Tony Hernandez Pumarejo. I was originally born and raised in Puerto Rico, and I was diagnosed with autism at age 3. And as a person in the autism spectrum, I went through challenges and situations that are common with other people in the autism spectrum, but also at the same time, I went through situations that may not be common with other people in the autism spectrum. So to begin, some of the key challenges that some of the challenges that I went through. One was that I was completely nonverbal until age 4. Was nonverbal. I took therapies, verbal therapy, in order to help me improve my verbal skills up to a level in which I'm able to communicate as normal as possible with other people. But not only those therapies helped me, as I'm going to mention it throughout my presentation. Some of the key challenges, some of these challenges may be familiar to all of you as families that have loved ones with autism. Social communication struggles, trying to connect with other people. I've always had that challenge of forming connections, or in other words, friendships with other people. Going through a lot of situations of being misunderstood or not understood by other people, being laughed at, being mocked, not only in school, but also in all areas of my life. I remember when I was in school, I tried to make connections with the other kids, trying to, understand, why they behaved the way they behaved, the things that they did. And my goal was, I was trying to find a way to connect myself, not to feel alone, but I always have a struggle. And at the same time, they have trouble in understanding me. One example of this was when they make jokes. For example, a lot of times I didn't understood the jokes or didn't follow through with the joke. And as a result of this, this created misconceptions of myself, saying that I was not funny, that I was being disrespectful, and many other things that were simply not true. That what was happening was that I was having difficulties of understanding the jokes and the way they were saying the jokes. And this was just an example of the communication struggles that I went through in school and other areas of my life, which led to other situations in my life. For example, social rejection, bullying in school, dealing with the anxiety, depression in school, especially in school when I went to different types of bullying. One of the types of bullying that I went through was, for example, cyberbullying. Except when I was at the 11th grade in high school, I went through situations in which they created, this was back in 2007, when social media was beginning to be formed. And back then they created these profiles, which was, I don't know if this website still exists, MySpace, in which they created these fake profiles of myself, saying that I was homosexual, that I wanted to kill people, that I wanted to do so many things that were completely not true, and it hurt me. And not only did it hurt me, but it contributed to high anxiety and clinical depression, leading up to the point of suicidal thoughts. Because not only I was dealing with these types of situations in school, but also in my life. My parents got divorced when I was 5 years old. The first 10 years of my life, I lived with my mom. Then at age 10, my mom had to move out because of a disease and illness. Then me and my older siblings, we had to move with my dad. And it was a very tough transition. There was a lot of changes going on at the same time. And I was struggling with all these changes, in addition to the situations that I was going through in school. What helped me to survive all of these, situations was my hobbies. I was able to develop different hobbies in childhood, like playing video games, doing arts, food, and many other things, movies, especially Star Wars, which I became more than a fan of the Star Wars franchise, watching the movies over and over again. And I'm still a Star Wars fan to this day, as you'll see in a little bit. So those hobbies, in other words, helped me to escape the world that I was going through. In other words, the real world, and trying to get out from this, because that was the only way that I was going to survive. But still, it was not enough. Not to mention the fact that I was diagnosed at age 3, but I didn't find out that I had autism until age 14. So I didn't learn. I knew that I was having struggles and challenges, but I didn't know what it was. And it was very frustrating with me, because I was trying to figure it out, what was wrong with me and all that. I was able to learn about autism, but it was not like, all my problems went away. I just find out what I had. Then later they informed me that I was, Asperger specifically at that time. So in other words, to make it simple, it was a lot of, let's put it nicely, all different types of situations going on at the same time. And I felt, completely alone in this world. I did. But I almost gave up several times in my life. But there was something that kept me going, that pushed me to not give up. And it was because of these situations that I began to develop this habit of persistence and be persistent, persevere, and not give up. Despite the challenges, as I mentioned in my life in school, bullying, struggles with building friendships, depression, despite those situations, I was able to graduate from high school with a 3.9 GPA. Thank you. So my academic performance in school was good. Was very grateful to have the support of different teachers, especially my history teacher in 7th grade, 8th grade, my Spanish teacher in 7th grade, also my history teacher at 11th grade. They were very, helpful in this, in this period. And without their support, I would have not been able to survive. So I was able to graduate high school back in 2009. And after graduating from high school, other challenges came in. One of the big challenges that I was facing at the moment was, okay, I need to go. I'm gonna go to college, but what I'm gonna study, what I'm gonna dedicate or select as a college major, and this was one of the challenges that I had, and the reason for it was because I have different people tell me different opinions that of what I should do. You should study this, study that. Study this because it will bring you the most financial security. Study this because you pick something that you're gonna like, and different opinions. And it created a lot of confusion and put a lot of stress over myself, not to mention with the high anxiety. So to help me with this, my maternal aunt was able to get me in contact with different professionals which the main purpose of this was for me to meet these professionals of different industry or different jobs, so that way I can see what they did on a daily basis. So basically this can help, this can help me in knowing what I wanted to do for my life, basically. And as you can see a picture of myself there, one time I was able to work as a intern or a type of apprenticeship with a land surveyor or civil engineer for almost a year. And I was working with him, and I was able to learn more about their profession, what they did, what they like about their professions, also what they didn't like about their professions, because there's no perfect profession. There's no perfect job. All jobs have their pros and their cons, just like life. And I was able to learn from that, not only from him, but also I became a pastor of mine, going to his church. So I was able to get very important life experience from him, which at that time, I made the decision to go study land surveyor in college. So that's the decision that I made at that time. And then once the decision was made, then I started my first year of college. The good thing about being in college was that I no longer had to deal with the bullying and the attacks on a daily basis against me, or the jokes against me. I didn't have to deal with that. But still, I was dealing with the struggles of, again, communication and social, and building friendships. Because during school, I tried to build friendships, and I was able to be somewhat successful, making connections with people that like the same things that I like, especially video games. That way, I was able to keep a connection with other people through hobbies. But still, it was, I went through challenges and struggles. I faced people that betrayed me, or that left me or ignored me in school. And I went through 5 schools during that time, not to mention the fact that I was going through a lot of changes in my family, and a lot of situations in all areas of my life. So it was very overwhelming situation in my life. But now going back to college, dealing with social struggles, making connections, I was able to start learning how to communicate with others despite my challenges as an autistic person. But still, I was having issues. And not only I was having those issues, but right now in college, I was having issues in terms of academic performance. I was struggling academically. I went down to 2.5 GPA my first year after almost being 4.0 GPA. In addition to that, again, dealing with the different situations in my life, severe clinical depression, a lot of tough situations at the same time. And I was a person that I didn't get out of my house. You can say, somebody can say, oh, you were antisocial, But because I was focused on getting good grades, I stay at home, and still I was not getting the grades that I thought that I deserved at the time. And it was a lot of struggles. The first year was a disaster, basically. As a result of it, I had to change majors to psychology. And reason I wanted to study psychology was to understand more of myself, as an autistic person, but still struggles in those areas, and all the situations that were happening. And in the middle of this storm, because for me it was like a storm. I was trying to find ways to survive. I was trying to develop, habits or activities that were going to help me, lead towards a better life. I got into learning more about personal development, setting goals, dreaming, having a dream life, dreaming of a better life than the one that I had at that time. I was focusing on big goals like traveling, having houses, having video games, things like that were going to help me to keep pushing, keep moving forward, basically. And that's one of the things that helped me to survive, basically. But despite that, it was still not enough. And also another thing is that my dad, I was going through a lot of changes in the household. My dad got remarried, so I had to move to a new household with people that I barely knew. So that was another tough transition at the same time. So it was so many things going on, and I was so overwhelmed. It got to a point in which I was completely burned out. And as a result of that, I made the decision to leave college for a time. Maybe I was going to come back or not. And it was a decision that was not supported by everybody. They were criticizing me here. I had people telling me, even family members and former friends telling me that I was going to be a complete failure, that I was going to get nowhere in life, and that I was never going to go back to college. They were telling me all these sort of things. So much for the support of this decision, but I went ahead with this decision, and then in 2012 I moved to Florida to be with my mom and to start again. In other words, like a restart, basically. So I moved to Florida. And again, I wanted to start life again. So the first thing that I needed to do was to find a job. I had worked in Puerto Rico, but not on a more of a volunteer basis, but not a paid position. So my goal was to find a position that was more of a fit for a person in the autism spectrum, because there was one time in which I read an article by Dr. Temple Grandin in which she listed the jobs that were recommended for a person in the autism spectrum. She did a list of jobs for visual thinkers. She did a list of jobs for other thinkers in the spectrum. And then she did a list of jobs not recommended for a person in the autism spectrum, and which I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit. And I was struggling. I was trying to find a job that didn't require a lot of social communication and a lot of multitasking. One of my challenges, of course, was with multitasking, dealing with short-term working memory, putting a lot of pressure on myself, and anxiety going up. That was one of my biggest challenges in the spectrum. And the thing is that I was not able to find that position. And months went by, and obviously the finances, in the household was getting tough, and it got to a point in which I said I need to find something to support the household, any job at that time. So I was able to get an interview for a position, for a job, and despite my anxiety and struggles with my eye contact back then, I was able to improve my eye contact throughout the years. I was able to get my first ever job. And it was in an area and a job that is not recommended for people in the autism spectrum, which is the area of customer service and retail and sales. And the reason why this is not a recommended position for somebody in the autism spectrum is because it requires 100% social communication, multitasking, fast-paced, high-pressure environment. And people that are here, some of you working in retail, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And also patience, because you're dealing with different people, different personalities, different attitudes, different situations, not only from your customers, but also from your coworkers, your management team. So, you know, I was getting into, it felt like I was going back to school. And it felt for me like I was in school, dealing with different types of situations. I started my new job, you know, trying to be optimistic and keep moving ahead, no matter the challenges that I had. And I was struggling and struggling and struggling, dealing with people that were making fun of the way that I talk, the way I behave, getting insults, being ignored, trying to keep up with all the things going on in that type of environment. And it was tough. It was very tough. It got to a point in which I almost threw it in the towel and just gave up and leave. And I was so frustrated with the situation, but more I was frustrated with myself, because no matter how hard I worked in improving my life condition, nothing was working. I was blaming the past. I was blaming the people that attacked me, that rejected me throughout school, that were not very supportive of me throughout my life. I was blaming my circumstances because I felt like a failure. And I was blaming autism. I was blaming everything. And my depression was at the highest level, and it got to a point in which I almost, ended up calling quits, basically. But at the same, but then something happened within me, and this was a critical point in my life in which it got to a point in which I can no longer blame the past, blame the circumstances, blame others for the situations that I was going through. It got to a point in which I had to assume more responsibility, and this is very important for all of you to note. I needed to realize that I can no longer blame autism for my past, and that I'm not going to let autism or the circumstances of my life, more specific, determine what I can and cannot do in my life. In other words, accept more responsibility and keep fighting no matter what. So as a result of this, I had to I had to fight. Like I had to continue fight. I was down, but I was not out. And I continued to push myself, like a therapy, and improve my social skills in that type of environment. Because one thing that always, for me, has been the strongest, value, one of my biggest abilities was persistence and doing more than what other people expect, working harder than others. Not to brag, but to do the very best and not give up. And I was able to, through struggle, to sacrifice, I was able to survive that job, and I was in that job for a year. And this happened after I thought I was not going to survive in that job. And thankfully, I was able to learn from this experience. Later on, I was able to get a job in hospitality for a couple of months. And by the same time, I was feeling unfulfilled. I was feeling like I was not going nowhere in my life. And I needed to do something to get back on track or to get closer to where I wanted to go. Because back in 2010, I did a list of goals of things that I wanted to do in my life. So as a result, as a first step, I made the decision to go back to college. Back in August of 2013, going this time to Seminole State College because my first 2 years of college were in Puerto Rico, and go to an area of business and information management. The reason why I entered this area was because at that time I had goals of having my own business or being an entrepreneur, which I believe was going to get me closer to where I wanted to go. And that's the reason why I majored in business. It doesn't mean that the college or the degree program was going to give me the business, but be able to get back to college was just a first step towards getting closer towards that goal. So my second time in college, still struggles, of course, with social communication, relationship building, but at the same time, I felt like I was in my own, in my area. I felt that now I was taking the courses and gaining the experiences that were going to help me get closer to where I wanted to go in life. And so I took different types of courses in Seminoles in my second time in college, like accounting, finances, entrepreneurship, Microsoft Office, sales, which I'm going to say in a little bit why sales has been so important in my life, marketing, courses that are not only required to get a degree, but they're required in life. Because especially in sales, for me, life is sales. You're selling yourself. It's not just having a sales position. We do sales directly or indirectly in our lives. That's what life is. And getting those skills that were going to help me get closer to where I wanted to go in life. Not only from the courses, but also from the experiences. For example, I have my accounting professor. Not only, I took accounting with her, but also she had a group or club of an accounting club, which in this group we went to different networking events. In other words, to meet people. And she put me in these positions of networking events and, basically being forced to meet people, basically. And I needed to learn the hard way how to connect with others despite my challenges in the autism spectrum. I remember going to a networking event, which we practice how to behave at the table, how to shake hands, which I have a big struggle. I know in the beginning, making eye contact, which is one of the most common challenges in the autism spectrum, making eye contact, slow down. That's one of the challenges that I had when I was talking, especially when I'm anxious, and many other things. In other words, she got me out of my comfort zone to get into things that were uncomfortable in order to see and to improve my skills and my experience to the best of my ability. And I can say that if I wasn't for that experience, not to mention the customer service experience, I would not be here right now. For me, this was like real life therapy. For me, the best therapy of my life has been the life situations that I've gone through in my life and learn from those experiences the hard way. And I'm very thankful for her mentorship and her leadership. Also to mention my sales professor. He taught me how to do, I don't know if some of you work in sales, cold calling people, making calls or telemarketing. He taught me how to do that, how to do sales. Despite my challenges and my verbal struggles, I was able to do the best of my ability and learn, and I continue to learn to this very day. Don't mistake that I think, I've overcome this. This is no. A lot of times I struggle, even though guys may not see it at the moment. But, overcoming those challenges, not let again my autism or my life conditions determine what I can or cannot do. Autism part of my life, yes, but do not let it determine what I can and cannot do in my life. And I continue learning the college experience. I remember one time we were part of a group project in college in which they put me as leader of the group. We were doing a proposal for the city of Sanford here in Florida, an hour north from here. We did a proposal in which we had to come up with a program that would help senior citizens how to use how to use Uber as their main method of transportation. And that group project, I hated group projects. I don't know about you, but I hated group projects, and I still kind of don't like them to this very day, to be honest with you. But it was a struggle because I had to keep everybody on the same page, dealing with differences of opinions, dealing with a little bit of a drama. It was a struggle, and I had to learn again the leadership and getting everybody together and making sure that we were working towards the common objective. And thankfully, we were able to do our presentation, and we were able to do our presentation in front of the City Commission of Sanford 2 days before graduation day. So we were able to do our project, which was required to graduate, for us to graduate from college. Well, we were able to do it. We were able to make it happen. So it was a great experience. And then after that, 2 days later, the big day has arrived, which was my college graduation. I graduated from college December 14, 2016. I remember the exact date. With a 3.7 GPA, magna cum laude honors. And after, for me, it was a very important life goal, because after being told I was not going to go back to college, I was going to end up as a failure, and all negative comments, I was able to graduate from college. It was not the end goal, but it was, again, an important milestone to get closer to where I wanted to go. And not only that, but I was recognized by the president of the college back then, Dr. M. McGee, as an autistic graduate from college. And I was recognized, as you can see there in the picture. I stood up, I was applauded, and that recognition was not for me, to be honest with you. It was more towards raising the awareness and also the acceptance of people, of autistic people in our society, to educate in our society, which a lot of times focus on what they cannot do or the disability, to focus more on what they can do and to stop putting limits on autistic people. So that recognition became like a confirmation of the mission, which has become my life mission to this very day, to be an advocate for an entire community, to be an advocate for the autism community, to educate our society, to create that awareness and that acceptance of people with autism in our world. And that's what I wanted to do with that recognition. So overall, today, I work full time. I work as my last job. Right now today I'm working with Autism Speaks, but I started with them a couple weeks ago. But before that, I worked for 3 years as a manager with Sherwin-Williams, again, in an area of customer service and sales. Just imagine, it's not easy, and it's still not easy. Imagine being a manager, leading your team to success and having all that. Dealing with, again, multitasking, struggles, managing the store, managing a business, and being an entrepreneur, even though it's not my business, but I had to run it like my business. Dealing with angry customers, angry situations, changing situations, especially last year with COVID. I never stopped working during COVID. I continued working, and it got more work. For example, my store, we were only 4 people. The store manager, the assistant manager, which was me, and our part-time staff. And despite the struggles, we were able to exceed our budget and make $2 million. Our budget was 1.5. So we were able to survive, but at the cost, of course, because that job, and that's one of the reasons I stopped looking for another job, based because of my health. It takes a toll, physically, but also mentally too. It's not easy. But I just wanted to demonstrate to society about the potential and purpose that people with autistic, have in the world. And not only that, I'm also a writer. I wrote a book called An Autism Unscripted Life, which talks about my life in the autism spectrum, from childhood to adulthood, in my own words, in my own experience. I also was able to write it in Spanish. So I'm fully bilingual to this day. And I was able to get to the books and everything. And one day came in when I was in my island in Puerto Rico, in which I was being interviewed on TV for the books, promoting my books. And they were so impressed, there was a lot of impressions with my interviews that, because I was interviewed at the main TV channels of Puerto Rico, which included Telemundo, at the main channels. So a lot of people were watching my interview, my first time being on TV. But I was able to do, just imagine my levels of anxiety going up. So it was, but at the same time, focus on the goal, focus on the mission, and I was able to survive. And then after those interviews, I got the highest number of Facebook requests that I've ever got in my life. After the first interview, I got like 300 requests. And after the second interview, around that range. I never had so many friends on Facebook, let alone in my life, in my real life. So then I was interviewed on radio in Puerto Rico. Then I came back to Orlando. I was interviewed by Univision of Orlando, their program called Despierta Orlando, which is like Despierta America. I know some of you watch Univision, their main morning show. And they were the people at Univision Orlando were so impressed by me and the way that I did the interviews and the way that I expressed myself and the way, more important, how I was able to overcome different challenges, that they invited me to be a collaborator with them. And that's one of the jobs that I do to this very day. I have a weekly segment in Univision. I talk about motivational topics, but I talk about autism every week. And I've been fortunate to be with them for almost a year. And as you can see, I've interviewed many people, including one special person in our community, which I'm going to show you right now. I had the honor and privilege of my life of interviewing Dr. Temple Grandin. I had the honor and privilege of meeting her 3 years ago at a Miami conference. I remember one time, because Dr. Grandin, in her, have you seen, I don't know if many of you have been to our Dr. Grandin conference. She focuses a lot on abilities, helping your children develop the abilities that will help them become more independent in life. And she did a Q&A, and I remember I raised my hand saying, look, I work full-time as a manager, and I also wrote a book. And she congratulated me and recognized me in front of the audience, and everybody applauded. And then after her presentation, she went to my table and she personally congratulated me. And I was able to get her, her contact and everything. And 3 years later, be able to interview Dr. Grandin is like one of those bucket list things to, check. So I was very fortunate to do that. And it was in English, but I was able to translate it in Spanish for our Spanish-speaking television. So the first time that Dr. Grandin was interviewed on Hispanic television, and I had the honor and privilege of interviewing Dr. Grandin. So now you guys know two of my jobs. I do speaker, I'm doing it right now, author, writer, and also, but all of this leads to my most important job and my most important title, which is an advocate, advocating for our community, for families, for autistic individuals, for teachers, for everybody in the community, to educate our society of what autism is and what needs to be done to achieve a common goal, which is a better quality of life for each autistic individual. So all of you guys learned a little bit about my story today. Now I have a challenge for all of you. This is a couple of things, in my opinion, and not only my opinion, but also my experience as an advocate. I forgot something. I have also done work with autism organizations, Before Autism Speaks, I was board member with the Autism Society of Greater Orlando for 3 years. I also work with the ASD Achievement Center, which is a center that provides services for autistic adults, and also with the Autism Society of Florida. So I've officially done advocacy work for almost 10 years now. So just wanted to mention that for a moment. So overall, these are a couple things based on my life experiences that I believe our communities should be focused on. One is we need to continue to raise awareness about the challenges that people with autism or autistics and their families face across the lifespan. Very important to continue to raise that awareness. Number two, very important, accept people with autism as integral members of society capable of making significant contributions. I know we have, autism is very diverse. I'm just here telling you my story. I'm just one story of millions, but there's millions of stories that need to be told. And I don't focus my opinion too much on the levels, level 1, level 2, level 3. I don't focus too much on that. I focus more on the challenges, but very important on the abilities of each person with autism. So very important to do that. And number 3, very important, take action towards continuing to create more effective programs and resources that will help people with autism and their families achieve a better quality of life. So because we heard about autism awareness, and I know, to be honest, that's always a debate, awareness or acceptance, which I understand. Again, this is my opinion and my perspective of all of those are important and are part of what has become my mission as an advocate, which is Autism Purpose. Autism Purpose, that's where I focus on as an advocate every day through my jobs, through my experiences of life. We need to focus on awareness, acceptance, and action towards creating a better, what should be the main goal of the autism community, which is a better quality of life, as much of an independent life for individuals in the spectrum. I know that there's differences in the community. I'm not saying we're going to be in agreement 100%. That's unlikely. But I believe that as a community, there are things that we can agree on so we can work together those things to educate our still most ignorant society out there about what autism is, how it impacts different families around the world, and continue to make real change and real effective change. So that's my call for all of you today. I know it's not easy. Whether you're a parent or a teacher or a therapist or an autistic individual, it's a fight. For me, autism today is perseverance. That's my personal description of what autism is. And I imagine it's the same description for all of you. So in conclusion, I'm gonna leave you my contact info. Here, you can reach me here at my website, tonyhpuma.com, and also at Gmail. I'm available. Any questions that I can answer to the best of my ability and my experience, I'm here to help. And then I have social media, which you can follow me on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, and Twitter, and many others. Most of the time on Instagram and on Facebook, and I also do my postings on my weekly segments at Despierta Orlando on my social media. So hopefully, hopefully you guys were able to learn something from this presentation that can help you in your mission to create a better life for your loved ones. So thank you so much for being with me here today. I said it took me like 37 minutes, so not bad. So I'm really grateful for all of you for being me here today. And again, thank you so much.
What were like the specific struggles that you had regarding?
One is keeping conversations going, because I have been able to learn to make connections, to start a conversation. But always, and it's a struggle that I'm dealing with, is keeping the conversation. So in other words, keeping the friendship alive or keeping the interest. It's not easy, I'm just being honest. That's always the struggle that I'm working on and continue to work on right now. And it's very difficult. Right now, a lot of focus is online. So having that personal touch from an online perspective is very difficult to achieve. And another, in contrast to when we were in school, in which we were in scenarios and locations in which you had to be with people by force, basically. So I can start, I can initiate contact, but always keeping that interest has always been the struggle that I had, but I continue to work and improve. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yes, I definitely think that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes can actually relate to that,
Mm-hmm.
to be honest.
No, that's the thing. And the most important thing is to not give up. Making friends, I think almost for everybody, it's not easy, especially today. It's very difficult to find that
I know it's struggle.
struggle, because
Probably a struggle for many people.
people in the spectrum had to deal with this early in their lives, because usually, let's say for a neurotypical or person or normal person, they have their friends, their social cycle, right? In school, when they're younger, they have their school friends, their college friends, and all that happy, activities, parties, and all that stuff. And then you graduate college, and then you go to the labor force, and your social cycle, the time you spend, making friends, it gets reduced significantly, because people get more into commitments. People get married. People get into having families, and they get more busy in their lives. So the venues of creating friendships narrow as you get deep into adulthood. But it's more difficult for people in the spectrum, because we're dealing with the rejection and being misunderstood early on. So it's difficult, but the most important thing is to not give up. And what's helped me has to focus more on loving myself. It's not because of an ego thing, but to take care of myself, do things for myself. For example, one of the things that I'd like to do, travel by myself. I had traveled by myself. I have done activities by myself, because staying at home will further contribute to my depression and my anxiety. It doesn't help. You go be out there, do things for yourself, and look for opportunities to talk to people, even strangers. One of the things which I don't like about working from home is that I'm stuck between four walls. Sure, I have the chat, to work, but I don't have that social interaction. The good thing about my jobs, even though it was a lot of high pressure, I talked to people every day. So that was the good things about those jobs, and that's the reason why those jobs helped me to improve my social skills. But the thing is, and I know it's something that I'm dealing with right now today. It's not easy, but the most important thing is to not give up. A lot of times you have to be your own best friend, and that's the reality. But the most important thing is not to give up. If that makes sense.
Yeah, definitely. Like, I understand. I like totally sometimes, like, I feel like I need to be, like, I have this urge to connect with people too.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, like, during those times, like you said, it's difficult. I understand that.
Mm.
You do have to be your own best friend.
Mm-hmm.
And you never know what it could turn to. Sometimes if you're your own best friend, it could turn into, like,
Mm-hmm.
you meet someone along the way eventually.
Yeah, and also the best way is to start with hobbies. Find common interests. Start there. That's the start point. That's the start point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
Did you have a tutor or somebody that inspired you?
I have people that inspire me, that I met, and people that I never met in person. I think obviously my parents, through their, despite their, sometimes their, just all the situations, that we live. They did the very best for me despite the situations. Obviously, some of my teachers in school, in college, also people that had a direct impact on my life, even though I don't talk to them today, but they have an impact in my life. Also mentors, I mentioned personal development, study from people that have overcome different challenges through books and videos about how we're able to overcome a challenge. I'm not saying, become a millionaire and all that, but it's not just becoming a millionaire, but overcoming the challenges to achieve the purpose in life. Those are help me and inspired to keep moving ahead. And also very important, and I have this perspective, I didn't have this perspective till recent, but also help the people that attack me and that bully me during my life. Why I'm grateful to them is grateful to those experiences, because those experiences, even though they were bad at that time, they pushed me to become the person that I am today. So, and life is like that, and for all of us basically. So those are the things that keep me pushing ahead. And also the community, of course. I'm not gonna forget the autism community. Being able to help people that have the same condition that I have and their families, getting support and comments every day of how my work has impacted their lives, in a positive way, made a difference, is one of the things in my life that keeps me moving forward, because it's not easy, but I keep moving forward, and thanks to the autism community. Okay. Yes.
So you talked a little bit about your mental health challenges, and I so appreciate that, because I think we sort of lose that a lot of times.
Mm-hmm.
There's still the stigma and everything else. Can you speak to a little bit about how you maybe overcame those challenges?
How I'm continuing to overcome. It's not easy, focusing on self-love, again, not in an ego perspective, but to take care of myself. Learn to embrace your solitude and your loneliness. Do not let the loneliness overtake you. I know it's not easy, but I have two options, two choices. Either I give up and leave, or I continue fighting. And I had to develop the habit, and it took years. And it's still taking me time to develop the habit, because a lot of times, to be honest with you, I cry and I feel sad that I don't have nobody to talk to, or a lot of times when I do this, I feel sad because I don't have somebody that can give me a hug or congratulate me, especially from people and from my families and people that sometimes call themselves friends, but they never demonstrate that. I had to learn how to expect less from people, as negative as it sounds, but to expect less from people and focus more for myself. It's a work in progress, and also activities, hobbies, exercise is very important. I mentioned traveling, or for example, that's the reason I started traveling back in 2015, even if I didn't have friends by myself. So that way I was now stuck at home and not limit myself. And going to California, going to Star Wars convention, traveling to Canada, traveling to Spain, going to places by myself, being your own best friend. And also, I'm also a religious, spiritual person. I believe in the Creator and God, God of course. And focusing on that, and find ways to talk to people and make connections, which is not easy. Even today, it's even more difficult than ever. But the thing is not to give up, and to have that support and find the help, all the resources, and do not give up. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
No problem. Next question.
I was going to ask, because I found it really interesting when you were mentioning how pursuing your career and having these experiences outside of your comfort zone have been, you feel, one of the best forms of therapy. Because this is a sentiment I've heard echoed by a lot of autistics recently, and I can also relate to it myself. So I'm curious if you have any ideas about how we can use that to help other people.
You talk about using, can you repeat that again? Sorry, I lost you for a moment.
Yeah, just the idea that in your life, pursuing a career and having those experiences outside of your comfort zone, that you feel is your best form of therapy.
Yes, exactly. Going through
that as a concept, how can we use that to help other people?
being positions that will put you the most uncomfortable. Do things that you usually don't do. Whether be with people, travel, as I mentioned, could be traveling, be in positions that bother you the most. especially in social settings. That will be, and also doing things that you may be afraid or have a fear that you haven't done in your life. For example, one example, and I'm going to mention it here right now. I did something that I had a fear for years, and you won't believe me that I did it, but I did it. Recently, last year, I did skydiving. I did skydiving. It's something that I think not only for people, autistics, but everybody has a fear. I mean, skydiving, really? And I did that. I remember that day in which I was like debating up to the last minute to where to do it or not. Then I watched a motivational video from Will Smith saying that he did skydiving and it was the best thing that he ever did. So it gave me some assurances that everything was going to be okay. So I was like getting into the airplane and I was thinking to myself, I can't believe I'm doing this, sorry for my language. I was like, and then I have somebody thinking, recording me. And then we were in the airplane, as the airplane was getting up, I was like, he was asking me, are you doing good? I was like, yes, because I haven't messed up, yeah, good. But in reality, I was super anxious. I was fearful. I was wondering what I got myself into. And the most tense moment was just before they throw you off the airplane. That was the most intense moment. And then they pushed me. I was like, and but that was the most. Once they pushed me out of the airplane, I felt like the fear and the anxiety went down. That I was in a different world, flying, and it was the most spectacular thing I have ever done in my life. So overcoming the fear and doing things that put you in the most uncomfortable is the best thing that you can do for yourself, because nobody's going to do it for you. That's the reality, and that's what I recommend to other autistics, and I recommend to everybody. So hopefully this helps. Any other questions? I know we are tired. I know that. Okay, if there are any other questions, I'll be here tomorrow. If I'm in booth 104. So if you guys want to speak with me and learn a little bit more about myself, I'm here to help out. So thank you so much for being with me. Yes.
I actually just want to say something. I think you express yourself in an amazing way.
Thank you.
Doing what you're doing, you're awesome.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being with me here today, tonight. And continue enjoy the family cafe. If anything, I'm here to help, and I'll be here tomorrow if anybody wants to visit me at 104. Thank you so much.